All right, we should be live now. Make sure these chats are up. All right, cool. Well, welcome everyone to AppSheetTraining.com's webinar for the October 29th of 2020. So excited to have you all here. My name is Clark James. I'll be your host. I also have with me Stefan Quartermont, the president of Crew Technologies. And so if you enjoyed the webinar from 2 weeks ago going over automated document generation, you're going to love today. It's going to be part 2 of that series. And so without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump in. Like I said, automated document generation part 2. It's going to be a fun one. I'm going to breeze through this really quickly so that we have enough time to get through everything that Stefan has for us today. But the main concepts are going to be styling boilerplate templates. It's going to be aggregate calculations like total cost, and then link to file. The reason why this says hopefully on this slide is because it can be finicky, this expression, but it is a fun one. It is a good one to learn, very advanced. So without further ado, Stephanie, if you want to go ahead and take over and show the people some good info, that'd be
All
great.
Right. Yes, I'll go ahead and share my screen here. Also, Clark, can you give me permissions?
Yes.
If anybody has any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and just interrupt me or send a chat. Clark will be monitoring the chat and he'll kind of give me the heads up on some questions. So I love being interrupted. I love answering questions right at that moment when they pop up. And it's usually a common question that multiple people have. So please do not hesitate to ask questions during this webinar. All right. You guys seeing my screen? Clark, you seeing it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
All right. So guys, this is the app we started a couple of weeks ago. It's a fairly simple order capture application. So we have an order here. And this order has a status. And this order has related order items. Okay. If we take a look at our table structure, in fact, I'll show you the spec so everybody can get an idea of how this is organized. We have an order object, which is what we're looking at right now. It's these top 3 fields. And then we have order items that are a child of the order table. So an order can have many order items related to it. This is what we're seeing down here in the inline view. And then we have a table of items. So this is a static table of items. So this is maybe all the items we have for sale in our business or something like that. And so an item can have many order items associated to it. So basically an item can be ordered many times. So what we would call that in the database world is a many-to-many relationship between orders and items that we see represented through this table, order item. So just a high-level overview of the data structure so you guys can see what we're doing here. And just for posterity's sake, I'm going to add another item to this order. So I've got my order referenced up here. And then I've got my item table referenced right here. We can see that if I pop open the data structure for you for the order item table, we see the order ID column is a reference. The item ID column is a reference. Order ID is a reference to the order source table. Item ID is a reference to the item table. Okay, so that's what's populating these drop downs here. Let's say I want another apple. I want 10 apples. And then I've got some formulas going that we set up last time to calculate the price based on the quantity and the price that is set for an item in the item table. If you're interested in how we did that, feel free to look back at the last part 1 of this webinar. And I'm going to go ahead and change the status here. If you recall from last week, we have a workflow set up called completed order PDF. And it says when this happens, we're targeting the order table and we're looking at the updates only event. So anytime there's an update to this table and this condition is true, which we'll step into this condition and take a look here. This condition says it's an and, which means everything inside of these parentheses has to be true in order for and to return true. And so we have this fancy thing right here that says this row before dot status does not equal. That's what this means. This row after dot status. And then we also want to make sure that the status is completed when we want to send this. So basically this will only fire when the status column has changed between syncs and the status now equals completed. So I moved it to pending. To really send it, I would have to move to completed. And I'll force that sync through. And then it does this, create order PDF. This is the only action in this workflow. And it sends an email to the current user. That's what this formula is, user email. And it says there's a new order. And there's a blank email body, which if you leave it blank, AppSheet puts some default text in there for you. We have the default header and we have an attachment that is of type PDF. And it is based on this Google Doc template, which I have open over here, completed order PDF. And so AppSheet is going to merge data where these tags are. And we talked a little bit about the start and end tags and how that allows AppSheet to actually loop through a list of things and print out a new line of subsequent or the data tags in between for each item in that list. And then we're also archiving it. So we have it set to attach and archive. And the attachment, we have a custom folder path. So we're putting it in the receipts folder. And then we're adding a subfolder that is set to the creator name. So the creator is this value right here. And let's take a look at our drive and see our order that we just updated today. There we go. We got our 10 apples that we added. Okay, so just to level set with everyone about what we're working on and what it does, I'm going to save the little changes that we made. Today, we are going to first work on a bit of styling. This is pretty bland. This is the default that AppSheet gives you, but I would like to make it look a little more professional. And so typically order forms or invoice forms coming from companies don't have as much margin. So a common thing that people want to do to make it match maybe the existing paper form that your business has, we can go to File, Page Setup, and then we have this margins section over here. And I'm just going to drop this to, I'm going to make it very narrow margin. So I'm going to drop to 0.3 on every side. So now we can see it's much more close to the edge. I'm going to stretch this table. Line those things up a little bit. I think I want a header. So I want this customer information to appear sort of on the right side and then maybe a logo on the left. So a logo for our business. So I'm just going to delete this here that's in heading 1. I'm going to move this down to normal text and I'm going to insert a table. So a great way to style and organize templates is to use tables to make sure things are showing up on the right side of the page that you would like or aligned properly. So I'm going to go ahead and find a logo here. I'm just going to grab a random one from the interwebs. Insert an image, search the web. Why not? AppSheet. Logo. Not happening. Okay. Maybe a Google logo. We'll throw this guy in there. Okay. And I want to say Google, and then I'm going to throw another line here. I call it a retail order receipt, and I'm going to spell it wrong. And I'm going to move this customer information into my table. And I think what I'd like to do is right align it. And I'm going to go ahead and bump up the creator. Why don't we give this a little bit of styling? And in fact, I'm going to push these closer together. I'm going to set them to the same weight. Let's do heading 4. Actually, I'm just going to change their font size, bold them, and then subdue their color a little bit, de-emphasize them, maybe a little bit more. Okay. And same thing here. I'm going to return that to normal text. I'm just going to bump up the font size. Okay. And I'm going to get rid of these lines. A trick with the Google Doc templating system is that you can't make the lines disappear by setting them to 0 point. So you actually have to make the color the same color as the background in order to get those lines to truly disappear when we print it out. All right, let's resend this order and see what this looks like. Okay, we should see this form update for us in just a minute. There we go. So you notice it didn't add another form in this folder, and that's because last week we talked about that, but I'll just cue everybody in. We're setting a custom file name here. So we're naming the file according to this attachment name. So we're just taking the order right here, the text order underscore, and then putting the date in this particular format. Now, if you add a file to Google Drive that is the same name and in the same folder path as another file, it does something called upsert. So it upserts this file. So if I look at this file and I go to manage versions, there's actually several versions of this file because it keeps getting overwritten by AppSheet. So if you didn't want that to happen, you would need to do some sort of incrementing file naming convention, or choose not to disable the default timestamp, which is AppSheet's way of helping you not overwrite your files on accident. But I like the behavior, keeps things nice and clean. So we're looking at our updated file here, starting to look a little more professional. I think what I would like is I would like to bold the amounts, or maybe format them at a certain color. So let's see here what we can do. I want to change these to the color blue. Let's see if that works. Nothing yet. Okay, there we are. We made them blue. Now let's see if we can make them bold. Now, you guys may have noticed I'm kind of cross-formatting this in tag. And it's a bit intentional because this is a mistake that people commonly make in their formatting, that they don't completely format something in between the tags the same way, or that the tag ends get formatted differently. And oftentimes this causes an error in AppSheet, and it will prevent your workflow from completing, which I am unsuccessfully breaking this workflow, which means AppSheet has done good work to help prevent that. So let's see if I can break these tags. Because I would like to show you guys the debugging process of how you go about uncovering what's broken in this template and fixing it. It is often a part of the process where people get very frustrated. I know many times I have banged my head against a wall excessively trying to figure out where I was missing a start or an end tag, or interpreting AppSheet's error messaging. Well, looks like I can't break this today. Keeps working. Okay. Well, let's move on and see if I can't break it a different way. Oftentimes in these reports, you don't just want to see what was ordered, but you want to see a sum total of what was ordered. So I'm going to show you two ways to generate a sum total for these orders. The first I'm going to show you is in the template, and the next one I'm going to show you is in the app. So I think the most simple way is in the app, but I'll show you the hard way first. I'm going to insert a row below this in the table, and I'm going to copy this quantity so I can get its formatting. I'm going to say grand total. And we're going to put a grand total price here. So what we want to do is we want to sum up all the values of this column, of the amount column. In order to do that, we have to use a sum function. So the sum function in AppSheet. Just going to open help.appsheet.com. And we have a nice example here. It says sums all the values in the seed column of the closest table equivalent to this. It's an arithmetic sum of list items. So what you put inside the parentheses is a list of things and a list of numbers in particular, and AppSheet will summarize them or add them up. So we have an example here of a sum select function. So the select function takes a particular column from a particular table and optionally applies a filter, and then will return you the list of items from that table in that column. So this would return a list of delivery charges that pass, whose rows pass this condition. We're going to do something similar here. We are going to do, oops, don't know how I did that. Sum. Actually, we're not going to use select. So we talked last week the difference between select and then using the virtual column that's already provided for us. So AppSheet has a virtual column that it makes. So our order item table, let's go into our columns, references our order table. And whenever you build that relationship, AppSheet automatically builds a virtual column in the parent table that you referenced. And that has a formula that returns a list of things, and it is all of the order items related to this particular order record. So all of its children is another way to say it. So we already have this column that is a list of our order items. That's why we're using it here in our start expression. So I'm going to take this list and I can say, I don't want the IDs from that. So by default, this provides the ID column or whatever you're using as a key from that order item table and makes a list of those things. Instead, I want to return a different column. So I'm going to treat this as if it's a table name instead of just a column reference. This only works with list type virtual columns that are a ref rows formula, essentially. So I want to return all of the amounts from our related order items, and then I want to sum them up just like that. Now, again, we have to put double carets. So AppSheet interprets this as an AppSheet expression. And now let's see how that works. Not there yet. While we're waiting on that to appear, I will give you guys a few pointers about templates in Google Docs. There are some things that don't work. So for instance, certain fonts are not supported. So you might pick something like Pacifico here, and it may or may not work. So if you see your template produce something in a font that is not what you initially intended, try to go back to a more basic font. Arial is, I would think, the most basic of fonts, most widely used across operating systems and such. Also, you can't use headers and footers. So if you use the format, insert a header and a footer, well, where is it? Here we go. If we put a footer in here, AppSheet will not be able to reproduce that on our page. Okay, guys, I think I succeeded in breaking our template. So it hasn't appeared. Okay, so I've waited a sufficient amount of time. I'm concerned that my template is broken in some way. So I'm going to go to Manage, and I'm going to go to the Monitor tab, and I'm going to open up the audit history. So this shows me a history of every sync that we've done, and it gives me information about the details of that sync. And it will also highlight any errors that happened on any part of the sync or workflow. So we can see that there's a sync and edit that happened to the order table row, or to the order table, a row in the order table, and it initiated a change workflow rule. I don't know why it's skipping down like that. And that initiated a workflow action. There's an email action that says create order PDF. And that errored out. So I'm going to click the binoculars to step in and look a little more closely at this. And I'm going to scroll down to this section right here, errors. So this can look pretty intimidating. This is sort of raw data returned from the AppSheet system. And sometimes it's hard to read. So oftentimes I will take this whole line, and I'll just come into my template that I'm working in. I'm going to paste it in there so I can read it a little bit easier. So it says error, workflow rule, completed order PDF action, attachment template expression, sum, related order items amounts is invalid due to unable to find column amounts. Did you mean status? Okay, so it looks like I named this column wrong. Let's go back in. I'm going to look at my column structure for my order item table, and it's just amount, not amounts. So let's see if I adjust that, if we can fix it. I'm going to delete that message. And we will wait patiently while it runs through this workflow. And you know what? Why not dress up our app a little bit while we're waiting? I want to make this a header. So I click the short link down here to my view. This is the order detail view, and I'm going to set up a header column for my creator. There we go. And maybe I want to move my created date time to the bottom. So I'll put all other columns before my created date time, and it will run through every column and then throw this one at the end, just like that. Okay, so I think we successfully ran our formula. We have a sum total here, adds up to a nice $60,000, $60,026. And then our footer did not appear in the foot. You can see it just got appended to the end, which is not exactly an ideal behavior. So I would encourage you to go as lean as possible on your template. And, you know, feel free to test and try these things, but occasionally the behavior you see in Google Docs will not be carried over to the template, and you will have to make some concessions. Okay. So we've added our sum column. I still have not managed to break the tag interpretation piece here, which I'm impressed with AppSheet. Many, many times this has broken the template, but they have improved their processing. So that makes it easier for the rest of us. All right, let's step into the next thing. We've done an aggregate calculation. And again, I'll show you how to do the same thing in AppSheet, which will save you some time because you notice I put amounts there before and it didn't like that. So in my app, I may want to show a sum total actually in the app as well, not just in the printout. So I'm going to go back into my table, look at the column structure for my order table. And just like we used that expression in our template, I can add a virtual column called total, and I can put this formula in there. And if I accidentally spelled it wrong, AppSheet will quickly tell me instead of me having to wait through the grueling process of sending and resending and error checking my template. So now that I have that column in there, I can simply reference this column instead of having to have a long formula here. So between these tags, I can just put total, and it will be plenty happy. And you know what? Why don't we just make this guy green? Nice and large. Okay, so we've done a little bit of styling. We have improved the, I want to fix this in the view. It's going to bother me. I want to put my total right up over here. And I want to put status in front of it. Just like that. Okay, and why don't we go side by side? Great. Occasionally, you won't want to go searching through Google Drive for your file. You might like to link to it directly from this order. So we have a column type in AppSheet called file. I'm going to add a virtual column here. And I'm going to call it receipt. And I'm just going to put a blank piece of text in here initially. I'm going to save this. Now that I've saved that virtual column, I can change its column type to file. Now what file is going to do, file is going to look through our default image or default storage provider for the app. And it's going to go look for something in this file folder path that you define right here. And by default, this, I'm going to go to info properties, open up my app properties. We specify a default app folder here. So this is where it's starting to look by default. Okay. So if I go to my Google Drive, you can see I've got my drive, the orders folder. Inside the orders folder is a receipts folder. And then there's a folder for my particular creator of this order. And then inside of that folder is the list of orders that they have and any receipts. Now I want to access this file in particular. So I would have to know both the file path and the exact file name in order to basically assume where this file would be. So a good place to start is in my workflow where I define where I wanted this to go in the first place. So I've got two things here. One, I've got the file name formula already built, except it's got some merge tags instead of normal column references. And I have an attachment folder path. So I'm going to start with this attachment folder path. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go back here. And for the formula, I'm going to start with, well, too many quotes here. Receipts, and then I'm going to auto populate the creator. So whatever creator is specified in this column will appear here. But I can't stop there because if I do, this folder or this file field will take me nowhere. So it's got a, well, it'll take me somewhere. If I click it, it says, hey, there's not actually a file here. I looked for it, couldn't find it. So I need to be more specific and actually take it directly to order 10, 15, 20, 11, 19, 15. So I'm going to go back in, go to my workflow, open up create order PDF, and I'm going to get this formula that I use to name this file. And I'm going to append it here. So you might be used to seeing text joined together with the concatenate formula. Concatenate, like that, and then have things like that. You can also separate them or join things together by just using the ampersand. I don't like typing concatenate, so I use the ampersand. All right, so I'm going to put order in quotes because this was being interpreted as a template expression, which interprets everything as if it's text, unless you specify with double carets that it's a formula. So I'll have to break this up. I'll have to put order as its own piece of text, and then I'll have to join it to the result of this text formula. And I'll delete the closing double carets. And so AppSheet tells me that this formula means it's the concatenation of all these text values. And just to do a quick test so we can see what's kind of coming out of here, it looks like receipts/info@appsheettraining.com directly into the order number. Looks like I probably need a slash between com and order because this is actually inside of the folder. So I need to put a slash there. Test that guy. Okay, that's looking a little bit better. Let's see if that works. Now, oftentimes when we're working with virtual columns and formulas, you have to save before the app will show the proper result. All right, still not finding it. So it could be that it's looking for this file in maybe the root folder for my drive. So why don't I specify to look in the order folder? I put the slash in there to tell it that it needs to start at the root of my drive. Still not happening. Okay. Maybe I'll try this /order/receipts. Now this is why I said maybe early on in this in the presentation that we may be able to link it to a file. This is always a trial and error process, but it can work. Okay, not happening here. Let's try this. Let's take all of this and move it into actually, let's take the whole thing. Throw it in there. Leave this empty. See if that helps. Nope, didn't like that. Let's just take our file name here remove that and just leave the path and throw the file name in here. Okay, so this is where it starts getting a little hairy. If I want to debug why this is happening, the best way to do it is to use the file type column as a static column and upload a file directly through it and see where it lands. Because theoretically, if it lands in the same place, wherever it lands, I can read from that place and find other files there. So it'll help me understand where my file is coming from in the first place. So let me go to the source of my order table. And I'm going to add a column called file test. I'm going to leave it blank for now. I'm going to come back in. I'm going to regenerate my structure to bring that column in. And I want to try to load it in this folder. So I'm going to go in here, put this as my path. I'm going to save it. I'm going to download this file to my desktop. And I'm going to rename it here. So I'm just doing this off screen. I'm just going to put test in front of it. Okay. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to load this file in. There it is, test order. I'm going to save that, push it through, and then this thing should be showing up in my drive somewhere very shortly. I'll just open up the root of my drive. Okay, it looks like I just got a new folder here called Order. So that looks like one mistake I made. In my file path, I have order instead of orders. But everything else seemed to put it in the right place. So I'm going to press done. I'm going to save. Oh, got it. All right. So now I have a live link to my order receipt. Let's just try this again. I'm going to save this guy. It's a new order. It really shouldn't have an order anywhere. It says bad request, couldn't find anything. We could put a if condition in here to hide this if our related order items are blank or if the status isn't completed. And I'm just going to order 2 Teslas. And I'm going to move this to completed. I'm going to delete this whole folder that was built on accident. going to go into receipts. Oh, this is an old one. And then I've got my order from today for 2 Teslas in Drive. Let's see if I have it in the app. Going to go down here to my receipt. No. Supposed to work. Let's make sure the file name is the same. Okay, it's got dashes here and dashes here, but it doesn't have dashes. Okay. So as mentioned last week, when we name files, like with this right here, AppSheet doesn't always create the file in the same manner that we described it, because there are certain special characters that you shouldn't use for file names. And so it looks like a colon is one of those. So I'm going to change this to a dash just to be specific and make sure it's the same naming convention as what's happening in Google Drive. And I'm going to go down here to our file. And I'm going to do that. Still nothing. Well, we got close. We got one of them. Just for a second. Can't find that guy either. So we could go back through the debugging process, reload our test file. Oh, I think it's the .pdf. I think that might be throwing us off here. Whoops. We should have a .pdf. Well, my friends, it's not showing me love. Again, I put the stars. Maybe, hopefully, we would link to a file, which we kind of did once, and we are running short on time to finish it. But that is an example of how you could attempt that and some of the debugging steps you can take to ensure it continues to work. It takes a little bit of effort. So we must make sure that you test this one out really well. Debug it a lot, and you'll probably have to watch over it if you want this type of functionality. Other ways to do it. Sometimes you can get a direct file link. Linking directly to files in Google Drive can be a little bit tricky without using their API. So you could use Zapier or something to return the file link as another workflow step, returning it to the database and using it to link through. That's another option that would probably be more reliable. But yep, just a couple of options there. And hope you guys enjoyed this webinar, learning how to format a little bit more professionally, working through some debugging steps, working on some aggregates for our related lists, and trying out a more advanced sort of workaround feature with AppSheet's file column type. All right, guys. I'm going to hand it back off to Clark.
Sounds good. Let me turn some of these things back on for us. All right. Should be able to see the screen now. Well, thanks you all again for joining us today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know that it was a lot of information packed into such a short amount of time. But that's why we had 2 parts, because doing all of that in 1 part would have been insane. But like I said before, we are appsheettraining.com, and we our goal, our purpose is to help you guys out, to allow you guys to build what you need through AppSheet in whatever way that we can. We try to have these webinars every week on Thursdays at 11 o'clock Central Standard Time. Sometimes that doesn't work out, and usually an email gets sent out, but we try to do it every week. But in order for us to be able to do this, we do need supporters. So if you wouldn't mind mashing that like button or hitting that subscribe bell, that would be super, super helpful for us. If you are interested in more training like this, we do have on-demand video courses on our website, as well as AppSheet IQ. AppSheet IQ is pretty brand new. It released about a month ago, maybe. But it's designed to basically show you where you might need some more training in AppSheet. So it's a very useful feature. Or if you're looking for some more consulting or enterprise training, we also offer those, as well as development support if you want us to take a look at your app or just build your app from scratch. I have left my email here at the bottom of this page, clark@crewtech.com. So if you are needing any assistance, or if you just have any questions, or if you just need a friend, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to talk to you. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Can't wait to see you guys next week.